Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Monday night winning, Bears losing, rousing rendition of Talking 1265. I am so rusty right now. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's
You
Tuesday.
called it Monday. It's not
I
even Monday.
did.
You're like off an entire day.
I am off an entire day. Oh, I burgundied already.
I don't even have that in the notes. I have Tuesday right in front of your face.
Yeah, I had Audacity in the way, and I was trying to pull it up. Oh, today's Tuesday, September 15th. This is episode 88. I am your host for this dumpster fire, Norm. Joining me tonight is Coach
Hello, everyone.
and Rick.
Hello.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. And missing this evening due to some sad family news is JC, and he will hopefully be back next week. But thoughts and prayers with JC tonight. We won't share his family information because, well, that's not for us.
It's his family and not everyone else's.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, tonight, we talk Chicago Bears. And since this is an audio podcast, show of hands, who thought it was going to be this close?
Based on our picks last week, nope.
Yeah.
We all thought it would be a little bit wider. We were close on the Packers score. Every one of us had them in the 30s.
Yep.
But we didn't give the Bears enough credit. But granted, had we not given up a garbage touchdown in the fourth quarter, we all would have been very, very close.
Very close, yep.
If. Lots of ifs.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like they're tackling. Iffy.
Oh, God, the first half was despicable. They should have been wearing like little yellow Minion T-shirts. So where do we want to start with this? Do we want to start with breaking news?
Yeah, go ahead and start with us.
Do it. Yeah, go for it.
Sam Barrington is out for the season with a foot injury.
Yeah, sweet.
Hooray!
Another guy on IR.
An inside linebacker down in a position where they are very short-handed and not very good. I feel very warm and fuzzy on the inside about this. How do we feel about this? What do they do? Do they go out and pick somebody up? Do they go with what they have?
I think they got to at least get somebody in there for depth. Now, they put Barrington on IR this afternoon, and they added in Dayton Jones off of his suspended list. So they're still at 50, 53, 52, 53. And so they'd have to release somebody if they sign somebody, but I don't think they can go forward with just three middle linebackers on the roster, and one of those being Matthews, who's not even a truly middle linebacker technically.
Correct.
I think they got to add somebody there for depth, if nothing more.
So how long does it take for a linebacker to get into Green Bay and up to speed? We're talking like a 4-week, 5-week process, aren't we?
They had some guys in camp that they released. They could bring one of them back.
Yep.
That'd probably be the first route they'd go, unless there's somebody out there in free agency who's older and just they can bring in and relatively familiar with Capers type of scheme. But I don't know.
Oh, you mean like Desmond Bishop?
Desmond Bishop hanging around out there?
I'm fairly certain. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly certain. That's the first thing that I thought of when I heard the news on Barrington today. Yes, bring in a guy that was released if he's not on another practice squad somewhere, on our squad, or move him up. And then I went, I wonder if Des Bishop is playing anywhere. So, guy like Corey Bradford or somebody we might be seeing back in Green Bay fairly quickly.
So is that what we're doing? Pulling in old Packers this season?
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily. Well, yeah.
Should we hash this out now, Coach? Do we need to hash this out now?
No, I've got nothing to say. You were entirely wrong. I was entirely right. I mean, all you need to do is apologize to the listeners for being dumb, and we're fine.
I'll tell you what, Coach. Here's what I'm going to apologize for. Not a goddamn thing. We don't know what would have happened. We don't know because White isn't on the team anymore.
You're exactly right.
He could have had the exact same game that James Jones had.
Yep.
We don't know.
You're right.
And I will not apologize for me saying that bringing in old Packers who have been cut in the past and cut by other teams is a good idea. I will never apologize for that.
No, I wouldn't want you to, actually. I wouldn't want you to. The biggest point for me was comfortability factor. You see the talent level and the upside is in my eyes anyway more of a win for Jones versus White. But it's also one game, right? James Jones next week could drop a 4th and 6 pass at the 4-yard line, and we'll lose by 5, and then he'll be the worst pickup the Packers ever had. So
to be honest with you, I expect that in the next couple of weeks.
Too early to tell.
Yeah, and you would think that. First of all, what didn't help my cause was the fact that he caught his damn touchdown in the first 3 minutes of the stupid game. That didn't help.
Well, then everybody kind of remembered that, hey, Norm said he shouldn't even be on the team.
Yeah, I fully appreciated your comments, Coach. I felt warm and fuzzy on the inside. I felt loved. I don't know. What? Yeah. Honestly, I think he'll be a good fit for the Packers, obviously, because he knows the routes, he knows the schemes. He's one-on-one with Aaron Rodgers and had been for, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't know the Packers. I personally have a problem dumping younger talent for older talent for a short-term fix.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, but I think in this specific situation, we had more to gain by going with the more experienced player. The average life cycle of an NFL player is 3.5 years or 2.5 years somewhere. It's like less than 4 years. Okay. You look at how many years White's been around versus what James Jones has accomplished in the same time span. If you don't look at, you look at the whole body of work with those two guys. Now, was Miles White not able to excel because James Jones was on the roster in the same time? I would probably say yes. His opportunities were taken away only because of the talent at that position. However, it was something where the timing just kind of stunk, right? Jordy Nelson gets hurt, roster gets done, Miles White makes the 53. Oh, hey, James Jones was cut. What? So
yeah,
it was just kind of a weird, coincidental timing thing. And the way it played out, you have to take into effect that Miles White and his agent pretty much said, F you, Packers, we don't want to be on the squad anymore. We want a chance somewhere else. And okay, now that ship has sailed and the train has left the station, so to speak, with Miles White.
Yeah, and he's now with New York, right? The Giants.
Yes, correct. He's with the Giants. So it was a trade. James Jones for Miles White trade.
After watching this week's game, how in the world did either of Oakland or New York release James Jones?
I don't know.
On what planet do they have a better wide receiver on their roster than Jones?
Quality of quarterback, the ball's thrown to James Jones. Aaron Rodgers hits him in stride. He hits him in the numbers. He hits him. And let's be honest, James Jones doesn't catch the balls that hit him in the numbers anyways. So
neither does 70-plus passes last year for Oakland.
But Preston Parker, the guy they kept in New York to take Jones' roster spot that is replacing Victor Cruz, dropped 3 third-down passes in their game.
Yeah.
So you look at that situation. If I was a Giant fan, I'd be like, hey, you ignoramuses, look at what he did in the Packer game, right? He's making all these ridiculous tough catches. And you look at Parker, what he did, and Eli was putting the ball right on him. He dropped 3 third-down passes. I don't know about you guys, but if you have Odell Beckham Jr., Victor Cruz, and James Jones as your 1, 2, and 3 wide receivers, isn't that kind of like Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right up there in the top 5 in the league in wide receiver core. So that makes no sense. Maybe they went with a youth movement, kind of like we were doing with Miles White, but it's playing out perfectly fine now until something bad happens, and we're in a holding pattern, a kind of a wait and see type of deal.
And I kid with the drop balls, and it very well could have been chemistry between the quarterbacks and James Jones. I mean, Rodgers and Jones have been doing it forever. Chemistry is huge, especially between the receiver and the quarterback.
Yeah. I don't know. He seemed to do decent in Oakland last year. Was he worth what they paid him? No, not really.
No.
But he did well enough. I mean, they could have tried to negotiate his contract down or something. But I couldn't see why the Giants cut him. I just that didn't make any sense whatsoever.
No,
especially with Victor Cruz hurt.
Right. It made no sense to me whatsoever. And on the same token, who looks like the best general manager in the entire NFL right now?
Good old Ted.
Sweaty Uncle Teddy. Lets the guy go for $10 million. He sits out 1 year from the Packers, goes to Oakland, gets released, goes to New York, gets released, and comes back 1 year later for the veteran minimum. Holy crap.
Sounds similar to the trail of Matt Flynn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It really does.
You look at what he did with Matt Flynn to get us through the playoffs, and now what he's doing now. If anybody questions Ted Thompson's intent on keeping the Packers in the best possible situation for the team, I don't value their opinion because they just don't understand football.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, and while we're talking about wide receivers, sorry, Rick, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Right,
Jump
we're talking about wide receivers. We talked about no Jordy Nelson. James Jones is back. No interceptions by Aaron Rodgers. We'll chalk that up to the win column. No sacks. I would chalk that up to 5 wins. I mean, based on the Packers' history, no sacks is that's second to the Super Bowl. Lack of Ty Montgomery and Jeff Janis. How do we feel about this? Like, we saw Ty Montgomery in the return game. I think he did very well.
He did fine. Yep, he did fine.
He did very well. From what I understand and what I heard via the interwebs on Monday, they don't feel comfortable with Jeff Janis. Is that kind of the murmurings right now?
I think if you wouldn't feel comfortable with a player, you wouldn't have him on your 53.
And that's what I thought, but that was just some interwebbing. You know how that works.
They had they each had 1 snap and 0 targets. You look at the depth chart behind them. I mean, it's going to be a tough situation. In that game, that I don't think that was the scheme to spread them out. The defense changed. They're not playing Tampa 2 anymore. Lovie Smith is gone. They're not playing. Yeah, they're playing 3-4. They don't have the Tampa 2 cover 2. They were in cover zone 0 a lot. They were playing bear a lot. In that situation, they're packing the box. They're going against Eddie Lacy. We had a lot of tight ends in the backfield, so we were going heavy quite a bit. You saw that at the end of the game also when Walker came in as a tight end. I don't think that was the scheme to spread them out and rip the ball all over the place, only because there may have been some protection issues the first game of the year. Let's make sure Aaron stays upright. Let's make sure we pound it between the tackles. Get some tape, make teams think we're going to be ground and pound more than we are. Play calling was awesome. It was almost 50-50 split run pass. So, I don't think it was part of the scheme to get those guys in the game.
No, and with the Packers, their scheme usually is to have 8 receivers catch a ball at least, or catch 3 balls. Aaron usually does a really good job of spreading that out.
Yep.
But he just didn't need to on Sunday.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like Coach said, 50-50 play calling. Aaron had 23 pass attempts. I mean, that's pretty low for Aaron. Normally, you're definitely over 30, approaching 40 in most games. And called runs, if you take out Aaron's scrambles and the pitch to Richard Rodgers, which was considered a run, even though it was kind of like a shovel, there were 21 called runs to 23 called passes. So, pretty even split there between the two, which is unusual for the Packers, and also part of the reason why you probably didn't see Montgomery and Janis get too many attempts, because they just didn't call as many passing plays as they normally did, which is good. I think we want to see the Packers get away from all-pass football all the time.
Well, what's bad though out of that number is they only ran, if I add that correctly, 44 passes or 44 plays.
Right.
Yeah, our play
That's
count was pretty low.
They were
You
not on
know,
the field often.
they were not on the field, and you got to give credit to Chicago's offense.
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of a couple boneheaded plays, they are going to be good. I mean, I'm just keep an eye on this game for the end of the season when we get them back at home. The two teams are going to be total different from where they are now, but they are headed in the right direction. They are a lot younger. It's hard to name 5 players that played on Chicago's, 5 on one side of the ball that played there last year, because there's a lot of new guys in there, new coaches, new philosophies, new schemes.
Mm-hmm.
They are headed the right direction, and they are going to have to be taken seriously sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to the Packers defense in a second, but they kind of need to step it up. Hitting on Lacey real quick here, he had 4.5 yards a carry, and according to Rick, 1 sweet reception.
one sweet reception.
He does have the best hands on the team. Right?
That one-handed grab out there, man, that was beautiful.
Ask him, he'll tell you.
Bad. Couldn't grind the clock with a lead and having the ball in the fourth quarter. So I tweeted this out I think I tweeted it out on Sunday. The one thing that hasn't changed in the Packers is empty backfield on 3rd and short, and they can't cover. Well, I can't remember what I said. It was basically along the lines of they're doing the same thing they did. They get a lead and they piss it away. They play. I wasn't paying attention to what defense scheme they were playing. They're playing probably prevent, because that's usually what they play when they're up by 2 touchdowns. But the same thing, third and 3, and they go empty backfield with Lacey out as a wide receiver, which makes no sense. And you go up by 2 touchdowns, 8 points and 7 points, so yeah, technically 2 touchdowns, and you play soft defense and you let them march right down the field and score. The
end of this game, it got real. One of your quotes, Tom, squeaky butt cheek time, real quick, because it felt like we were comfortable there, 15-point lead, 2.5 minutes to go. Defense takes the field and just gets shredded for a touchdown, and then it's like, oh god, we're going into an onside kick situation again. God, I feel like Seattle all over. It's like, didn't you learn anything from what happened against Seattle, that you have to close out a game? Even a 2-score lead isn't safe.
I think that if they keep this trend up, I haven't given my season prediction yet, but if they keep doing this, they're going to lose half their games to good teams. You can't do it to Seattle next week. We learned that. You can't do it to Kansas City the week after that. We go to Denver. You can't do it in Denver, even though they look like dog shit Sunday.
They didn't look. No, their offense looked like that, but their defense is something to be reckoned with. Don't take Denver lightly.
No,
that defense is scary. And then you throw in there, even before Denver, throw in there St. Louis, who went out and beat Seattle this weekend. And we have a very tough schedule. You look at our schedule; there are no cakewalk games on our schedule at all.
No, we have the Vikings, who are supposed to be. I guess they didn't look too good last night. I didn't watch the game, but they're supposed to be top of the division, right behind the Packers. Detroit always plays Green Bay tough. If Chicago plays Green Bay this tough, we have a hard division schedule, much less everybody else we play.
I know we got a
hard road to hoe, as they say.
Yeah.
Tough draw this year, getting the NFC and AFC West, because boy, Kansas City, Denver, and San Diego on one side, and then San Francisco, St. Louis, and Seattle from the other. That's not a favorable schedule. The only game you can look on the rest of the season and say the Packers are probably surefire bet to win is third from the end of the season when we go to Oakland.
And even that, once they get clicking, Oakland's offense is only going to get better throughout the year with some of those weapons they have. They actually have kind of a quarterback right now. And even that with the Packers defense isn't necessarily a.
Yeah, this team can go 6-10 as easy as they can go 10-6 with the schedule we have.
Yep, I agree. But talking about the defense, the good rookie cornerbacks seemed to do their job and did not get burned, even with Burnett not playing for communication.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about Rollins, Randall. You didn't hear their names, which
No.
to me is a good thing. I didn't want to hear their names unless they got interception. But as long as they were covering their guys, they didn't get burned.
Yep.
They did their job. After what happened in the last 2 preseason games, they were playing like rookies. I didn't hear their names, so they weren't playing like rookies.
Yep.
On Sunday.
I heard Randall's name twice, I think, for deflected or for defensing passes, and I think that was about it.
The guy whose name we heard way too much was Sam Shields, unfortunately, who's our highest paid cornerback, and boy, did he have a game to forget. I hope that was just a blip on the radar for Sam, and it was just an off day for whatever reason, but the Bears went at him, and he did not react well to it.
No, it was not comforting.
Gunter. Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully just a blip on the radar.
Yeah, penalties. I could have ripped whatever hair I have left out of my head in that first half. Penalties were unbelievable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Packers wound up with 10 for 74 yards. 10 penalties.
10. Oh, wow.
It's not the yards that killed them, it's when they did it.
Right.
4th and 3, they're going for a field goal. I just want to run headfirst into a wall. But I'm not going to.
With all being said, with how much they screwed up, they still won. So
yeah,
gotta give them credit for that.
I was listening to Andrew Brandt today on The Fan. He made a really good point. He said, no matter how good the Bears played, even if they wouldn't have thrown that interception, never once did I think the Packers were going to lose, and they did not play their best game. That says a lot. The Bears may have played close to exceptional execution, and the Packers did not. We'll get into that in the little coach's corner segment. They did not. We got very lucky with Clay Matthews. So keep that in mind. The sky is falling. When things are so good, our focus gets placed on items that other teams would really kill to have be put in our spot. We have an all-pro line. We have an all-pro running back. We have the best quarterback in the NFL. We have the best receiving corps. We have some really good safeties. We have a fairly decent defensive line. We have one of the best linebackers in the game. And our middle linebacking core and outside linebackers are that's probably our weakest spot. Look at Washington. Every player on the Washington Redskins roster, I think, would probably love to switch spots and put on a green and gold jersey. So our focus, because we have such an excellent football team, our focus gets a lot smaller, and smaller things seem like bigger things. So let's keep that whole focus of the game in perspective. We played what we would consider an average game. From watching the film, the Bears probably out-executed us, I would say. They're probably 60, we're probably 40. And they didn't win. So I think that's a win, excuse the pun, but that's a positive. That's a positive, something to build off of.
Well, they had time of possession. They had more plays. They had more first downs. I think they had more total yards. They had the Packers beat on most stat lines, including interceptions. But the Packers still and that's what good teams do. And we do bash the Packers quite a bit on sometimes petty stuff, but that's what good teams do. They win when the chips are not in their favor. Yep. Anything about special teams?
Just that Montgomery had a very nice day. I mean, that was excellent to see. It looks like we got somebody who's actually dangerous back there on kick returns. And the Bears only punted once, so we didn't get to see our punt return unit do anything. But maybe the special teams, or at least the return side of the special teams, did well. The coverage was good on the kickoffs and the punts. Mm-hmm. The only problem we really had was that penalty on Shields, which is just a brain fart.
Yep. So, and that kind of explains why they got rid of Aberderis too, I guess, with Ty Montgomery doing well as a returner. I mean,
Yeah.
to me that says they had that kind of in their game plan.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think Montgomery would have lost out to Aberderis. The question was Janis or Aberderis, one of those two. But
Right.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Are we going back to the defense real quick? I just happened to look at the show notes. Are we concerned about Forte having a 5.9 yard carry average, or is that just Forte gashing the Packers like Forte usually does?
You mean like every good running back usually does?
Mm-hmm.
I was just leaving it at Forte for now.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Coach.
It's an area of concern. You know, they were I don't know who was it. Harry Sidney was talking about some of the old staples in the NFL continue to have legs in the new NFL, right? If you can't stop the run, you're not going to win football games. I mean, that's the tried and true winner. Run the ball. Ask Rex Ryan. I mean, shit, anybody. Run the ball. We got to be able to stop the run. We did a poor job creating pressure on the defensive side, and it seems like when we created pressure in the exact wrong times, and I think that is reminiscent of Denver, 1996. Terrell Davis gashed us, and then we create pressure, and they run delays underneath it and draws. And then when he would run power, we would get stoned up front, which leads me to believe that offensive line of the Bears is better than our defensive line of the Packers. And they're making it look like we're creating pressure only to create running lanes and make us look bad. So yeah, it's an area of concern. They need to address it because we have Lynch and Charles in the next 2 weeks. So please, boys at 1265, do better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do good, please.
Got to do better against the run, and it takes the Packers not only their defense, but it takes their offense out of the game plan because the offense wants to play this fast tempo, no huddle type of game that Aaron can run. He can run that kind of offense, but if you're getting gashed on the running by the other side of the ball, your defense needs a blow. They need time to rest, so your offense then has to slow down when they're on the field. They can't play at the speed they want to play at because they go 3 and out in a minute and a half, and that defense that's been out there for 7 minutes has to go right back out on the field. So you notice the Packers were huddling much more in this game. Their offense was not at that high level, high speed that you saw last year, and I think that was specifically because of how much ball control and how much time on the clock the Bears had the ball. So it not only took our defense. It doesn't hurt our defense only. It hurts what we want to do offensively as well.
Yep, I concur.
Yeah, I would say Mike Turkovic, do better.
All right. So that was Sunday's game. As much as we pointed out all the negatives, overall it was a win. It was I would say almost a convincing win. Maybe not, but a win nonetheless.
We
Coach,
did what we had to do.
Yeah, exactly. Coach, do we want to try doing your play call? It seems like we're having some video issues with you.
Well, you tell me when you see it. How about that? Or I should say, if you see it. I see it.
And I'm not.
Nope. All right.
Nothing. All right.
Nope.
So I'm going to leave this here, and I'll just talk about it, okay? Clay Matthews' interception. We got really, really lucky that Jay Cutler is Jay Cutler. Because if Jay Cutler was any other quarterback, with the exception of a few boneheaded ones, that play would have been a 15 to 20 yard gain. Let me break it down for you. We have our linebackers playing kind of like a disguise coverage, we'll say.
We have some video now.
Oh, it's up. Okay, sweet. So Clay Matthews is the guy in the middle of the field. Nate Palmer is the guy with the direct arrow backwards, number 51. And Micah Hyde is on the other side of Clay Matthews. So this is how it happens. Rollins, number 23, drops back into coverage. That's not really how that's supposed to work. Okay, which is good. It's scheme. Micah Hyde has flat. He comes out with the running back, who's forte, that's doing like a little wheel route out into the flat. Nate Palmer is supposed to drop back in between the hash and replace Clay Matthews, who is going to jump the slant route on the tight end. So they gave Bennett a clean release. That's Jaron Elliott, plays inside, plays more of a 5 technique, gives Bennett a clean release. So what we're supposed to do is bait Jay Cutler into throwing this interception, and it worked perfectly. So Jay's first read is at tight end. He sees Micah Hyde running to the flat. Clay Matthews is in between the hash. He's supposed to be dropping back because you have 2 safeties, and it looks like they're playing quarters, which they're not. Clay Matthews runs to the hook to curl zone and intercepts the ball that is going to Bennett. Let's see if this one comes up here. On the next picture, it may or may not. Here's the big issue. Everybody on the defense's left side of the ball does it perfect. Jaron Elliott creates pressure. Mike Daniels creates pressure. B.J. Raji stands his guy up. Nick Perry, believe it or not, has a pass rush. Rollins drops. Micah Hyde goes to the flat. Clay Matthews drops back and hook to curl zone. And then there's good old Nate Palmer, stuck in the mud, flat-footed, takes the wrong receiver because Casey Hayward has the out. Nate Palmer has in between the hash. Nate Palmer doesn't go in between the hash, and they run kind of a little rub, a little slant and in combination, and they leave Palmer's man wide open, 7 yards down the field. Clay Matthews' back is turned, and the only person that can see him is Rollins and Clinton Dix, who is out of frame. So at the release of the ball, if Jay Cutler were to read more than one player on this route, he would complete this pass for probably a 15 to 20 yard gain, but he does not. He throws it to Bennett, who is now covered by Clay Matthews, who makes an outstanding catch, fully elongated, hands out, totally stretched. Rollins is driving on him just in case he catches it. Micah Hyde begins to turn upfield as Forte sees the ball being delivered. Clay Matthews luckily picks it off. But there's a bigger problem. If Jay Cutler was not Jay Cutler, there is absolutely, without a doubt, no one in the middle of this field where there is a wide receiver running free and could possibly, you can't tell by the aerial picture on the All-22 and video. I couldn't find pictures of it. I had to cut this off of video. There's no one there, 10 yards downfield in between the hash. So thank you, Jay, for making one read and throwing it to Martellus Bennett on a first down play instead of taking what the defense gives you. There was absolutely no pass rush. He had a perfectly clean pocket. He read Martellus Bennett with a free release coming hot. He threw the ball. He kind of, I think, got excited and saw him coming free. And it was an absolute perfect scheme. Now, if Palmer were to slide over into the hash and cover this guy, I think we'd have that play executed perfectly. But luckily, Jay's Jay. So there's the breakdown.
Nice. So we got lucky. We had 2 guys covering one. We had Palmer and Hayward on the same receiver because Palmer misread it. And Palmer was a backup. He wasn't supposed to be starting. That should have been Barrington in there.
Right.
So Palmer will get a week of practice with the ones this week. Most likely he'll be starting next week and hopefully have this cleaned up.
Yep, it's a pretty common issue when you have that type of route and twins to one side. Actually, it was trips to that side. You can't see Alshon Jeffries out of the frame, and Sam Shields is covered up man over him. But you have the inside receiver usually runs an out, and the outside receiver will run a slant, and they create kind of a pick. And I'm not sure if that's what they were thinking was going to happen, but it was just the opposite. The inside receiver ran a slant, the outside receiver ran an out, and Palmer jumped the out, thinking maybe that Hayward was coming underneath on the slant, but he wasn't. So we got very, very lucky that Jay Cutler is who he is.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. A separate comment. We had tweeted about this a little bit the other night while we were watching. I don't know if it was Sunday night game. I think the pick plays. I mean, are you noticing like I am that when you get into a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, or even near the goal line, that it is now becoming standard operating procedure for offenses to run a pick? I mean, that's why teams are throwing it on short yardage as much as they do, because you never get called for it. Refs do not call picks.
Yep, it is entirely blatant. The plays are developed for that. The Packers are probably one of the biggest offenders in like the early McCarthy, late Sherman, early McCarthy era, that you would have a slot receiver and your wide receiver kind of coming down running a slant, and you'd release the back out of the backfield, and that inside slot receiver would crack down on the linebacker, and the outside receiver would step down on the nickel receiver, the slot guy, the slot corner, and you would make your running back beat a corner, and then he was pretty much off to the races. It is becoming more and more and more and more prevalent because you're seeing inside tunnel screens, you're seeing bubble screens, you're seeing leeway being taken on the offensive side of the ball because the NFL is kind of built for quarterbacks and wide receivers. They changed the illegal man downfield rule to 1 yard to try to change that, but the difference is now the teams have switched to have eligible players come down and make it look like they're running routes. So, 4 years ago, when it was a 5-yard illegal man downfield, you would have linemen just go down and do it, and as long as they were 4 yards downfield, they couldn't call it. Now they changed it to 1. So now you see the NFL changing again, going to eligible players blocking. It is very hard as a referee to call it, right? Because you're not watching for that. You're watching for the ball. You're watching for possession. You're watching for positioning. As a referee, depending on your positioning, you could have 1 or 2 players that you have to look at. If your player doesn't get the ball and the ball goes away from you, you're watching for illegal contact. You're watching for a myriad of other things. They don't call it because penalties are so geared to the offense that sometimes it almost looks like the defender's getting in the way. So I mean, until they start calling it, it's never going to stop. Until they start penalizing the teams. The coach in me thinks it's brilliant. He changed the illegal rules downfield. Now I'm going to have my eligible receivers block or tight ends, make it look like the defenders are impeding them, maybe get a call out of it. Some guys, call it cheating, right? It's cheating. The hardline cheater guys say it's cheating, but it is. But that's just kind of the way of the world right now in the NFL. Everybody cheats.
Yeah.
It's this year's Madden exploit.
Yeah, it just bothers me how common it's becoming, because you wonder why in the NFL you see more and more teams on short yardage now that running the ball on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 is becoming less likely. That teams are more often than not, they're going to spread their guys out and they're going to run a couple of picks on both sides, and it doesn't get called. There was Yeah, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was the Sunday night game I was watching, and the wide receiver, the outside wide receiver was running a slant. The inside wide receiver running out. They were going to cross and try to pick off, and the outside receiver is supposed to pick off the defensive back on the inside receiver. The DB tried to go over the top of the receiver, and the receiver, who's obviously supposed to be running a slant, deliberately starts running upfield just to get in the way of the guy, like almost like he's going to run a sluggo slant, and then he turns upfield just to get in the way of that defensive back. You can tell that wasn't his route. That receiver's whole intention was to impede the progress of the defensive back, and that to me bothers me that refs can't see that or call that when it's blatant that a offensive player sole purpose is to get in the way of the man covering the other receiver. They're trying to pick. That is the definition of a pick. You are trying to impede the progress of the defensive player, because defensive guys have to have their right to the space that they're going into, just as the wide receivers do. And it's becoming a little too prevalent right now for my liking. Personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And the other tell, too, when you know it's definitely a pick play, is when before the receiver even touches the defensive player, his hands are up in the air. Like, I didn't touch him.
Didn't touch him.
Yep, I didn't touch him. Didn't get in his way.
No, I just ran by him and shouldered him. So that, it only takes a step. It only takes one step for them to get in the way enough of that defensive back cannot take one step that the guy that they're supposed to be covering is now open. If you're one step ahead, you are open as a receiver. So it doesn't take much. It's hard to call.
Yep. It is really hard to call, because look at it this way from an offensive perspective. If I'm going to call an out for my slot receiver, and I'm going to call a slant from my wide receiver, common pass combination.
Mm-hmm.
If my out, you tell that wide receiver to run a stick route, so he is actually playing off of the corner. And you say, okay, if he is playing on your outside shoulder, you break it off and you turn it into a curl. Right? He runs the out, he's playing on the outside, he stops. That stops the corner. And then, whoops, the other corner ran into him because he cut his route short. Whose fault is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but there are certain routes. When a route is called, not that but when you watch a receiver run a route, you can tell if he's running the route like he's trying to run the route and get open, or if he's taking steps outside of his route to get in the way of the defensive back.
Right. It looks more clumsy.
You can tell when a receiver's running a slant and trying to get open, he's running full speed. He's trying to make that cut. He's trying to get away from his defensive back. When he's running a curl, he run upfield, stop, turn around, come back. What I'm seeing are receivers who, on a slant pattern, they're not running full speed. They're watching the other defensive back. They're not making a hard cut to try to get away from the coverage that's on them. They're trying to create a roadblock, and it's obvious that they're trying to create a roadblock. Again, we could get down a big rabbit hole with this. This is just my personal opinion and something that I wanted to vent about. So,
nope, we'll take it.
I got to vent occasionally, and that's my vent for this week.
Yep.
It's not necessarily a Packer thing only. It's all the Packers do it too. I know we do it too.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying by any means stretch of the imagination that the Packers are innocent in all this, but it's just I think if that got called more, the running game would become more important in football against, particularly on short yardage. And I want to see teams have to run the ball in short yardage. I don't like seeing teams run picks if on the 3-yard line just to get guys open. So, yeah.
And with that, we shall move on. Mm-hmm. Preview next week. Seattle, Sunday Night Football, bright lights. Where is it?
Here.
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Lamboni Field.
That Lamboni Field.
The not quite frozen tundra.
Jay, do you want to ride the Lamboni?
I want to take a trip to Lamboni.
Oh, good God. So we've discussed the run defense and Marshawn Lynch already a little earlier in the show. Any other comments about that? We step it up.
As Jay said, Trokovic, or however you say his name.
Trokovic, yep.
Do better. Do better than you did last week with coaching your defensive line.
Teach your guys better.
Yeah.
Hope maybe Dayton Jones makes a difference. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's my thoughts too.
So, is Seattle's defense is scary without Chancellor?
It seems to have impacted them. I mean, that he brought a physicality to that defense. He controlled the back end, made calls. They're missing him.
Are they missing him, or is it a mindset?
No, I think the thing that they're missing is his innate ability to communicate. Once they get that figured out this week, I don't think you're going to see that type of. I mean, there were some times after the plays were done, I watched some highlights that they were like looking around, first down, okay, and then they go back to their defensive huddle. And I was going like, do they want to be here? Do they want to be playing? It just looked very odd to me, and I think that's what they're missing is that defensive senior leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We all know Richard, what's his face?
Sherman.
Does he talk a lot? Do the guys look at him as a leader? Who knows? A lot of the times, the guys that are mouthpieces like that, you can't bullshit a player. They know, the guy's good, but when they're over the top, they don't listen to him. Cam was never that guy. He was a guy that was going to rock you across the middle and put his shoulder into your chest and, get up and stare at you and then help you up. I think they miss him, but do I think they miss him as much as everyone says they do? I don't think so. I think they get it turned around, and I think we're in for a pretty tough game this weekend.
Yeah. Chancellor, though, I remember with the times we've played him, and seeing him in other games, he gets away with a lot, just based on reputation. He hits high, he hits people in the head, and he gets away with it just because I think of his reputation, the kind of player he is. Refs don't call against, it's the Jordan rule, right. Rogers rule, whatever you want to call it. Chancellor, he's known to be a hard hitter, and refs allow him more leeway than other guys in that defensive backfield for how they hit. So I'm glad he's not good. Well, he may sign this week, but I hope he's not there. Packers have troubles with physicality as it is.
Yeah. So what do we got for some predictions? Who wants to go first?
1, 2, 3, not it.
I'll go. And unfortunately, I'm going to go against the Packers on this one. I think Seattle matches up well with us. They're strong with the run game, which obviously is our weakness on defense. They have Jeremy Stevens. No, not Jeremy Stevens.
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham. I don't know why I couldn't think of Graham's name, but obviously he's a receiving threat over the middle. Our middle linebackers are depleted now with Barrington gone. They've got good matchups where we're weak. So I think Seattle will wind up taking this one from us, probably to the tune of 30 to 24.
Coach?
I don't have much to say other than I think the Packers lose 28-26.
Oh, Coach, you jerk. I have Seattle winning as well, 28-27.
Oh, 1 point game, close.
Yeah.
We'll have to get JC's via our Google Hangout, and
JC's going for the Packers. You know that.
We'll get him on here. Don't want to assume it.
I'm going to regret. Yeah, I was going to say I'm going to regret that Seattle, because I think that the Packers are just finally pissed off enough to where they have the Seattle in their home. You know what? I'm changing my score. Screw this. I just talked myself out of it. All right, I'm going Green Bay 31-28. I just talked myself out of it.
Norm's he's trying to get a lead early in the season on the rest of us in the pick segment.
Right.
No, Green Bay finally has a thorn in their side about the last 3 or 4 Seattle games, and they're in home turf now.
I hope you're right. I hope that they play with a fire under their butt, and they just run roughshod over the Seahawks like they did the first 3 quarters of the playoff game. But right now their defense to me isn't playing the way their defense was playing in the playoffs last year, and that's my biggest fear right now. I think offensively we'll get some points against Seattle, especially if Chancellor's not playing. I don't think Seattle's defense is as scary as it was, but our defense has a lot of holes where Seattle's good.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly my point of view. Our defense has holes where Seattle has really explosive players. I think that's the difference. That's the difference.
So Norm, last week we did our predictions for the season and you weren't on, so give us your ending record for the Packers this season so we have it noted.
Yeah, I see quite the mixture of records. I'm leaning more towards the 12-4 record with a I'm gonna go with a trip to the Super Bowl, but they don't win it.
Okay.
So who are they playing in the Super Bowl, Norman?
I can't give you that yet.
Get it out of you.
We'll save that one for later.
Yeah, I haven't thought that one totally through yet.
I must say, this weekend, though, if you're a Packer fan, you got to feel good about how this weekend went. Minnesota, all the NFC North teams lost. Minnesota lost, Detroit lost, obviously Chicago lost to us. Dallas didn't look extraordinarily strong in their game. Philadelphia lost. You had to like what you saw, that a lot of the top contenders in the NFC did not come out looking real strong.
Nope.
Green Bay didn't look extraordinarily strong either, but at least they won. That's more than a lot of the other ones did. Some of the other playoff teams, too. Indianapolis lost. Denver was in a real close game with Baltimore, almost lost that one. So, yeah, I mean, just from a Packer fan's perspective, just the fact that your team won, you got to be pretty happy about that, because there are a lot of contenders this week. People that were in, when you saw the power rankings going into the start of the season, top 5, top 10 power ranking teams that got knocked off this weekend right away. So,
Yep.
At least we got the win. That's a good start.
Correct. And so I see superfan Ryan Long is still questioning why we fired our special teams coordinator and hired his assistant. The only thing I have to say about that is they looked better this week.
I think he posted that question after Shields jumped offside on the field goal.
Probably.
But the coverage teams were better. We got the onside kick. Hey, there you go. He's better than the guy who left.
He's already better than
already better than the guy who left. And Montgomery,
Brandon Bostic coached up that special teams moment more than any other coach.
Yep.
So let's give it a few weeks, see how it plays out. But early returns on so far are the special teams. They weren't except for the penalty, a sore spot in this game.
Yep.
Okay, Ryan, take my point of view for a grain of salt, because it is useless to anyone other than myself. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result. So if you want something to change, you have to make a change. So whether it be the right change or the wrong change, at least we're trying something different. If it gets worse, we'll change again. If it stays the same, it's usable. If it gets better, then we know we made the right decision, and then we move on. So that's my take.
We'll find out with the defense next year when they switch that up.
Yeah, when we fired Dom Capers' ass.
I suppose time for a bold prediction, huh?
I need something from you.
So I am a week behind in my bold predictions. This was going to be my last week's prediction. And after watching the Denver game on Sunday, I feel more confident about this prediction than I did the week before. Peyton Manning is not going to last through the season at all. He's taking too many hits. His arm looks weak and wobbly. And maybe it's just shaking rust off. Maybe it's taking a little longer because he's older. He cannot take the hits that he took all season long and stay healthy. If he does stay healthy, he'll end up getting pulled because he's going to get gun shy with his throws. He had so many errant throws and balls in the dirt, and he's just not looking that good. I don't think he's going to last the season.
I'll give credit to you for that one. He didn't look like Peyton Manning normally looks, but the way Denver's defense is built right now, the corners they got, the pressure they can get off the edges, he doesn't have to be Peyton Manning. He can be A little better than Trent Dilfer with that defense and probably have a good run in the playoffs. That defense is really good in Denver. They are fast and they hit, they tackle. That defense is going to be strong all year long.
I just got word that coach crashed.
Coach, you almost made it to the end. You have stamina issues.
Yep. So on that note, I think we'll just wrap it up.
I promise you, people who watch the show, we it's not every week we have technical difficulties. Norm has fixed his. Coach, I think, is the last one of us who has to get his technical difficulties worked out. But the rest of us are good to go for the rest of the season.
Yep, he's next in line. This is actually technically the first season we've ever really had a problem with this. So
it just seems to be a bugaboo right now. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We got the injury bug. On that note, we are going to take off for the week. We will see you again next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel, talking1265.com for all of our links and all of our resources and articles and social media. Look for us, Talking 1265, anywhere that you can find us online, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, although nothing is there. So you can donate, but you won't get nothing yet. Anything I left out, Rick?
Nope. I think you got it, though.
Fantastic. We will check you out next week. Can't wait for Sunday night.
We're out.